My topic is, what are the effects of video games? Hi, my name's Casey. I'm going to be talking about why I chose my topic. My topic is about informing people of the debate between video games being positive or negative. I chose this topic because I'm just curious about the way video games actually affect people. It is something many people argue about and always seem to have different outcomes about in research. New games come out all the time, which always bring in new data and new risks to people playing them. The magazine I'll be writing for is Computer Graphics World. I'm writing for this publication because it just seemed to be more connected with its information and to the audience reading it. Specifically, the research question I will be writing for is what the effects of video games have on people today. My topic relates back to me wanting to major in graphic design and always wanting to create artwork for things like video games. Before I start to create artwork for things like video games, I wanted to find out what happens with the video games after they are all created. What effects do the games leave on people? Ever since video games were created, children and parents have often argued about the effects, whether video games are actually good or bad. There's always new video games coming out, which is why my paper is going to find the negative effects of video games that are more current. Most studies have been content on finding the negative effects, but there has been several biases found in their research. Many people have picked a particular side about whether video games have positive or negative outcomes. What makes my claim unique is most papers don't inform of the effects going through adulthood, and they just talk about the childhood. They also don't discuss the new biases in the articles, to which the claims, are they real or was that research exaggerated? My research paper is going to focus on non-biased update effects of video games. The way video games affect children, they cause children to stay inside and be antisocial. Children become addicted to games, and this affects their health. They sometimes skip meals or stay up all night, and they slack on schoolwork to play games instead. Video games don't affect all children, but some kids just need more supervision while playing video games. The way video games affect adults is this can lead into addiction with the introduction of loot boxes. This can cause adults with gambling issues to fall back into the hole of gambling money for things like prizes. Adults also have negative attitudes towards the studies, saying video games show negative effects, and sometimes even showing aggressive behaviors towards the studies. When people are part of a specific group, they always tend to act differently towards results. The biases in the research. Most of the research done on video games and violence in the video games. The negative effects. Any study showing negative effects seems to have some bias. The research people use are ones that some only did for popularity or didn't even try to relate them to actual evidence. When looking at some studies, by taking out the bias, the research actually shows low negative effects and that the video games didn't even cause violent reactions. This shows how there needs to be more accurate research done on the topic. Here, for example, I have a picture of what buying loot boxes would look like for children and adults. The sources that I've used relate back to helping me show the effects of video games and what they have on people. My first one is Peter Naroth, and in this article, he talks about the aggression involved in games and how it's sometimes not directly from the people, but it's how they react to research about video games. Most of the negative effects of the games, most of the research done on that people don't particularly like because they consider themselves a part of the group of people who are gamers. Like smokers, gamers react the same way to the studies about the negative effects. They know it is bad, but they continue to fall into this addiction. My next source is David Sendel, and Paul Sirens. They talk about how with the new addition of loot boxes, they do a new recent study that shows how much money people have spent on them and how often they buy them. They talk about how this is an encouraging addiction and how it could lead people who suffer from it already or create addictions in children. My third source is Alan Copenhaver, and he talks about how in the 2000s when this was a more popular topic and how it still is, but a lot of the research done in 2000s, because it was just popular, people are making research and exaggerating it. They would exaggerate the negative parts just like the way the media was doing. Thank you for listening,